The food never arrived! My father's voice cracked across the silence of 20 empty plates. I wasn't there. I wasn't even invited. After years of paying the bills, cooking, and cleaning, I was suddenly the problem. I stared at my phone, the group chat buzzing with messages I was never meant to see. They thought banning me would silence me, but they had no idea what I had planned. My family believed they could erase me from the table I built. What they didn't know was that I had already set another feast in motion, and this time, justice had a seat. The Anderson family was the kind of picture people loved to envy. Our house had the glossy exterior, the perfect lawn, and the right decorations at every season. Neighbors waved at my parents as if they were some celebrity couple, always complimenting how put together we looked. Inside, my brother Ethan and my sister Melissa basked in that spotlight, each of them praised as the shining examples of success. Ethan, the brilliant businessman. Melissa, the social butterfly with endless charm. And me, Claire, the middle child whose presence blurred into the wallpaper, the worker bee who carried the weight but rarely the recognition. From the outside, Thanksgiving in our house was always the highlight of the year. Relatives drove in from other states, bringing wine and side dishes, expecting the Anderson table to be laid with abundance. The secret, of course, was that I made it happen. I booked the caterers, paid the deposits, ordered the tables and decorations. I handled the endless details while Ethan posed for photos and Melissa played the gracious hostess. No one asked who actually footed the bill, and no one cared, except me. This year, as the relatives gathered around early, the compliments flew as usual. "Ethan, you really outdid yourself again," my father beamed, his voice rising so everyone could hear. He patted Ethan on the back like a victorious son returning from war. "He paid for everything this year. What a man!" The words sliced into me sharper than I expected. My father knew. They all knew. The receipt in my email said otherwise, the one with my name on every line. My credit card charged, but no one looked at me. They just nodded, clinked their glasses, and toasted to Ethan's supposed generosity. I forced a smile, swallowing the heat rising in my throat. I laughed lightly, though my fingers trembled on the stem of my glass. "Yes, Ethan, you really pulled it off," I said, my voice just smooth enough to pass as casual. My smile froze, stiff as porcelain, while my father's praise drowned me out. From across the table, Ethan smirked knowingly, as if he enjoyed my silence. Later that evening, when the guests had gone home and the house quieted down, I sat at my laptop, the glow of the screen highlighting my clenched jaw. My inbox held the email, bold and undeniable. "Thank you for your order, Claire Anderson." The payment confirmation sat there like a truth no one would acknowledge. I stared at it, letting the bitterness rise. But outwardly, I remained the dutiful daughter. Still, a seed of something darker had planted itself. The next morning, while scrolling through messages, I noticed an odd gap. Our family had a group chat we'd always used to plan holidays, but it had gone silent for me. No notifications, no chatter. I shrugged it off until my friend Jordan accidentally forwarded me a screenshot meant for someone else. My chest tightened as the words came into focus. It was the Anderson family chat, without me. The thread was alive with plans for Thanksgiving. Ethan boasting about his menu choices, Melissa debating wine pairings, my mother chiming in. "This year, let Ethan handle everything. Claire doesn't need to be involved. She never understands these things anyway." The air drained from my lungs. My own mother, dismissing me with a keystroke. A group chat full of my blood relatives conspiring in digital secrecy, leaving me out like a ghost that never mattered. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My first instinct was to dial my mother, to demand an explanation, to scream through the phone about how cruel they were. My thumb hovered over the call button, rage surging through me like a wave. Then I saw it. Buried in the stream of messages, half hidden between Melissa's emojis and Ethan's bragging, was a single line from my father. "Don't let Claire know the real plan." I froze. My pulse hammered in my ears. The real plan? My finger slipped from the call button. I didn't dial. I didn't scream. Instead, I sat back in silence, the phone heavy in my hand. The betrayal was already unbearable, but that line, cryptic, chilling, hinted at something worse than exclusion, something I wasn't meant to uncover. And in that silence, a thought sharpened, cutting through the fog of hurt. If they wanted me gone, if they thought I was blind, maybe it was time I let them believe it. Maybe it was time I started planning too. I couldn't hold it in any longer. One evening, as my father sat in his favorite chair reading the newspaper, I walked over and asked, "Dad, did you all make a new group chat without me?" He didn't even look up. "What are you talking about, Claire? You're imagining things. You've always been a little too sensitive." The way he said it, calm, dismissive, cut deeper than yelling ever could. My chest tightened. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe Jordan had made a mistake sending that screenshot. Maybe I had overreacted. That was the cruelest part of gaslighting. It made you doubt not only your family, but your own mind. I left the house without saying another word. My car felt like the only place I could breathe. I sat behind the wheel, turned on the radio, and let a song I barely knew fill the silence. My lips mouthed the lyrics quietly, as if I could borrow strength from someone else's voice. For a fleeting moment, I wasn't the scapegoat. I was just a woman in her car, humming along to music under the glow of a streetlight. But peace never lasted long. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I glanced down. A message from an unknown number. "They won't stop, Claire. Not until you break." My heart dropped into my stomach. I stared at the words, rereading them again and again until my fingers trembled. Who had sent it? How did they know? I wanted to dismiss it as a prank, but the chill in my spine told me it wasn't. Days later, we gathered at the house for a smaller pre-Thanksgiving meeting. Just the immediate family. I told myself to stay calm, to keep my guard up, but the moment I stepped inside, I felt the tension coiled like smoke in the air. Melissa was the first to strike. "You always make things so tense, Claire," she said sweetly, in that saccharine tone that left no room for defense. Her smile was perfect, polished, poisonous. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just came to help." Ethan cut me off. "Help? Come on, Claire. Let's not do this again. You love acting like the victim. Maybe you should take a step back this year." The words hit me harder than they should have, not because they were true, but because they were rehearsed. They had decided this together, I realized. It wasn't spontaneous. It was a script, and I was the villain in their play. I sat quietly, gripping the edge of my chair. My pulse pounded, but I forced myself not to rise to their bait. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Aunt Margaret watching me. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something I couldn't name. Pity? Recognition? Solidarity? When the conversation shifted away, Margaret leaned closer to me, her hand brushing mine under the table. Something small pressed into my palm. I glanced down, an old photograph creased with age. In the picture, I saw a younger Margaret standing apart from the rest of the family. My parents were there too, smiling at the camera, their arms wrapped tightly around Ethan and Melissa as children. Margaret's face told another story. The same tight smile I'd worn all my life, the kind you wear when you're trying not to cry in front of people who don't care. On the back of the photo, faint writing read, "Some things never change." I looked back up at her, stunned. Margaret's gaze met mine, steady, unflinching. She didn't say a word, but her eyes did. "I've been where you are, and I survived." My throat tightened. For the first time in years, I didn't feel completely alone. But the weight of the photo in my hand also carried a warning. This wasn't just about me. My family had been doing this for generations. The scapegoat wasn't chosen by accident. It was a tradition. And now it was my turn to wear the crown. I tucked the photo into my pocket, hiding it like contraband. My heart raced as I realized what it meant. The game had started long before me, and it was only getting darker. The call came late in the evening. My phone buzzed against the wooden table, the caller ID glowing Mom. I hesitated, then picked up. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Claire, we've been talking, and we think it's best if you don't come to Thanksgiving this year." We just want peace, and when you're around, things feel tense. My chest tightened. But I already paid for everything, I whispered, as if saying it louder might shatter me. There was a pause. Then my father's voice cut in, firm and dismissive. It isn't about the money. You always make guests uncomfortable. We just want an easy holiday. I pulled the phone away, staring at the screen until it went black. Their words echoed in my head like a verdict. Unwanted, difficult, inconvenient. The irony was unbearable. I had built that table. Every plate, every dish, every glass had been purchased with my card, my labor, my love. And now I wasn't welcome to sit at it. My knees buckled and I dropped into the chair by the kitchen counter, my forehead pressed against the cool wood of the table. For a long moment, I let myself break. The tears came fast, stinging hot, and I didn't fight them. When the sobs slowed, I lifted my head, wiped my face, and stared at the laptop across the room. My hands moved before my mind could catch up. I logged in, found the catering order, and began to type. With trembling fingers, I edited the delivery address. Not to my parents' house. Not to Ethan's or Melissa's. Somewhere else. When I pressed confirm, a strange calmness washed over me. I didn't know exactly what I was planning yet, but I knew one thing. They wouldn't be the only ones writing the story this year. Sleep never came that night. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling until the dawn painted it gray. My body was exhausted, but my mind replayed every word of that call. You always make guests uncomfortable. We just want peace. I considered erasing every contact in my phone, cutting myself off completely. Maybe disappearing would hurt less than being erased piece by piece. By morning, my eyes burned. I clipped the leash onto Max, my old golden retriever, and stepped outside. The air was cold, crisp against my skin, and Max tugged eagerly ahead. I let him lead, grateful for his uncomplicated joy. Mrs. Harlow, my neighbor, waved from her porch. "No family dinner for you this year, Claire?" she asked kindly. I forced a smile, my throat dry. "Not this time." She frowned, sensing the weight I carried but didn't press. I was grateful. Some silences spoke more than questions ever could. As we walked, the quiet of the neighborhood steadied me. Each crunch of leaves underfoot reminded me I was still here, still breathing. For a brief moment, I let the rhythm soothe me. That evening, I sat at my desk, Margaret's photo still hidden in my drawer. The memory of her eyes, heavy with recognition, stirred something inside me. I pulled out the picture, tracing the edges with my thumb. And then I remembered. Margaret hadn't always been part of our holidays. In fact, when I was younger, she had been gone for years. I'd asked once, and my mother had brushed it off. She needed space. But now, looking at the photograph, I knew it wasn't space. It was exile. She had been banned, just like me. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't new. This wasn't even about me. It was a pattern, a cycle. The family picked someone to carry their sins, their dysfunction, and then cast them out when they no longer needed them. Margaret had been their sacrifice once. Now it was my turn. My hand shook as I reached for the phone. The clock read past midnight, but I didn't care. I scrolled to Margaret's name, pressed call, and listened to the ring. When her tired voice answered, I whispered, "Maybe it's time to change things." Margaret's voice was low, steady, but laced with something raw. "Claire, your parents have always needed a scapegoat. When I was younger, it was me. They painted me as unstable, difficult, ungrateful, so they could keep their perfect image intact. Then, they pushed me out and rewrote the story. Now it's your turn." Her words hit like a hammer. I sat frozen, clutching the phone tighter. All those years, I'd wondered why she was absent at family holidays, why no one ever spoke her name without a sharpness in their tone. Now I knew. She had carried the crown before me, and now it had been passed down. "They make someone bear the weight so the rest of them can shine," Margaret continued, "and they'll keep doing it until someone refuses to play along." The line went quiet. My chest ached, the truth sinking in deeper than I wanted. Rage flared hot in my veins, but it was tangled with grief. How many years had I wasted trying to earn love that was designed to be denied? I slammed my journal open on the desk. My pen scrawled across the page with a force I didn't recognize. I am not crazy. I am not ungrateful. I am not difficult. I am their mirror, and they hate what they see. The words poured out, jagged and unfiltered. For the first time, I gave names to the feelings I'd buried: betrayal, humiliation, rage, sorrow. When I looked down, the page was soaked with ink and fury. My hand trembled as I read it back. Then, slowly, I tore the paper from the book, ripped it into shreds, and let them fall to the floor. But I didn't destroy everything. Tucked in a folder, safe, were the receipts, the emails, the messages that proved the truth. Evidence that I wasn't imagining any of this. My family could gaslight me, erase me, rewrite history. But they couldn't erase paper trails. I leaned back in the chair, breath uneven, a strange calm building beneath the storm. The next morning, clarity arrived like a blade slicing through fog. I knew what to do. First, the catering order. My laptop hummed as I logged in again, heart steady this time. I adjusted the address, not to my parents' home, but to the nursing home just 10 minutes away. Faces of strangers, lonely and forgotten, filled my mind. If my family wanted to starve me out of their holiday, I would feed people who knew hunger more intimately than I ever could. Second, the evidence. I printed every email, saved every message, cataloged every receipt. The folder thickened in my hands, and with it, my resolve. I wasn't just collecting paper, I was building armor. Third, the plan itself. This wasn't about revenge in its ugliest form. I wouldn't scream or smash or burn bridges in a blaze of fury. No, this was going to be precise, surgical, a truth revealed at the exact moment when their lies mattered most. Margaret called again that afternoon. "What are you going to do?" she asked softly. "I'm not going to fight them the way they expect," I said, my voice stronger than it had been in years. "I'm going to let the truth starve them. I'm going to give their feast to people who deserve it." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then I heard her exhale, a sound like relief. "Good. Make them see themselves, Claire, but don't lose yourself in it." That night, I packed my car with boxes. Styrofoam containers, sealed trays, foil pans stacked high. Each one labeled not with the Anderson address, but with the nursing homes. My hands shook as I loaded the last box, but not from fear, from anticipation. I stepped back, staring at the trunk filled with food. For once, I wasn't the servant of their illusion. I was the author of my own story. In the distance, the neighborhood was quiet, windows glowing warmly with other families preparing their holidays. I imagined mine, oblivious, waiting for their grand spread. The thought almost made me laugh. The camera in my mind panned closer, landing on the address label taped to the final box. Clear, undeniable, and entirely not theirs. I closed the trunk with a solid thud, the sound final, resolute. This year, the table I built wouldn't be theirs to sit at. Thanksgiving Day arrived with a cold wind and a sharper silence than usual. Inside the Anderson house, 20 relatives sat around the grand dining table, their forks and knives aligned neatly on empty plates. The air grew heavier with every passing minute. The smell of turkey never came. The clatter of serving dishes never broke the quiet. My father's jaw tightened as he checked his watch again. The food never arrived. His voice cracked, rising in panic and anger. My mother's lips pursed as whispers spread down the table, confusion spilling into judgment. That was when the large TV screen in the living room lit up. My face appeared, calm and steady, framed by the glow of my apartment behind me. "Hello, everyone," I said softly. My voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I didn't think you'd miss me, since you were so clear I wasn't needed." A murmur rippled through the table. My father's face turned red. Ethan clenched his fists, and Melissa avoided the camera's gaze. Then the screen widened, and behind me, the image shifted. Rows of elderly men and women, faces glowing with joy, laughter ringing as they feasted on the very food my family expected. Plates piled high with turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, pies glistening under the warm lights. Staff wheeled trays into the room, and the camera caught an old woman clasping her hands in prayer, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "This," I continued, my voice calm but firm, "is where your Thanksgiving feast went, to people who would truly appreciate it, to people who never turned me into a scapegoat, never erased me from the table I paid for." The silence around the Anderson table shattered. A cousin blurted out, "Wait, is this Claire's doing? Did she pay for all that?" The room erupted. My father slammed his palm on the table. "This is your fault, Claire. You've humiliated us in front of everyone." "You did that yourselves," I said evenly. "All I did was redirect what you never valued." Ethan shot up from his chair, knocking it backward. "You always wanted to play the victim, but now you've gone too far." His voice cracked, and his hand slammed down hard on the mahogany, rattling the silverware. My mother tried to gather control, her voice shrill. "This is not who we are. We are a family of respect, of tradition." "Tradition?" I cut in, bitter laughter slipping through. "You mean tradition of choosing one person to carry your shame? Margaret knows that story, don't you, Aunt?" The room froze. Heads turned as Margaret slowly stood. Her voice didn't tremble. "Claire isn't the first. Years ago, it was me. I was cast out, painted as unstable, so this family could keep looking perfect. And now they've done it again." Gasps spread across the table. Some relatives exchanged uneasy glances. Others stared at my parents with new eyes. The illusion cracked, splintering right in front of them. My father's composure collapsed. He pointed at Margaret, his hand shaking. "Don't listen to her. She was always trouble." But the conviction in his voice faltered, drowned by Margaret's steady calm. The truth always outlives the lies. Melissa tried to interject, but her voice quivered. The authority, the control, they were slipping, and everyone saw it. Then came the final blow neither my parents nor siblings could have predicted. Across the street, a neighbor stood on their porch, phone lifted high. The scene inside the Anderson house, my father's shouting, Ethan's rage, Margaret's revelation, was being streamed live. Within minutes, hundreds, then thousands of viewers tuned in. Comments flooded in real time, strangers watching the Anderson legacy unravel. On the screen in front of me, I saw the panic spread as my family realized what was happening. My mother's face paled. Ethan cursed, demanding the camera be turned off. But it was too late. The perfect mask of the Anderson family was gone, replaced by raw chaos broadcast to the world. In my apartment, I sat silently, letting it all unfold. I didn't scream. I didn't gloat. Justice wasn't always loud. Sometimes it simply meant letting the truth be seen. The last thing the camera caught before I ended the call was Margaret's steady gaze toward me, her lips forming words the microphone didn't catch, but I read them clearly. "You're free now." The fallout came quickly. By morning, the live stream of my family's implosion had spread across social media like wildfire. Headlines bloomed online. Thanksgiving meltdown caught on camera. Anderson family feud exposed. But tucked beneath the sensationalism, a different narrative began to form. Messages poured in from strangers. "You did the right thing. Thank you for feeding those who needed it. You gave me courage to walk away from my toxic family, too." The community began to call me something I'd never expected, a symbol of chosen family, proof that blood wasn't the only bond that mattered. Even some relatives, cousins I barely knew, reached out privately. "I get it now," one wrote. "I see how they treated you. They did it to me too, just in smaller ways. I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. For once, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't erased. I was seen." That evening, I sat alone at my small dining table. A simple plate of leftovers rested in front of me, nothing grand, just turkey and potatoes I had saved before sending the feast away. Max curled at my feet, his soft breaths filling the silence. I ate slowly, letting the calm seep into me. No accusations, no gaslighting, just peace. For the first time in years, my shoulders felt lighter. The quiet wasn't loneliness. It was freedom. My phone buzzed, breaking the stillness. I picked it up and nearly dropped it. Hundreds of notifications flooded the screen. Comments, shares, messages of support. People I had never met were telling me I wasn't alone, that my story mattered, that they believed me. I pressed the phone to my chest, eyes burning. For so long, I had begged my family to hear me. Now, thousands of strangers did. In the weeks that followed, something new began to grow. I joined support groups online, connecting with others who had lived under the same suffocating masks of perfect families. We laughed, cried, and built something real together, a chosen family, stitched not by obligation but by compassion. I shared my story in full on TikTok and Reddit, hesitant at first, then with more confidence as the views climbed into the millions. People commented, "This is my story too. You put into words what I could never say. You gave me hope." The narrative had shifted completely. What my family had meant as an exile became my liberation. What they thought was shame became my strength. One night, as I scrolled through messages, a new notification appeared. A private message from Melissa. "Claire, can you forgive me?" I stared at it for a long time. My sister, the one who had parroted every insult, who had laughed as they excluded me, now reaching out in the dark. I typed slowly, each word deliberate. "I don't need to forgive you, Melissa. I need to be free." Then I hit send, my hand steady, my heart calm. I set the phone down and looked around my apartment. It wasn't grand, it wasn't filled with heirlooms or gilded frames like the Anderson house, but it was mine. My space. My truth. The journey hadn't been about revenge, it had been about reclamation. My family's collapse wasn't my triumph. My triumph was stepping out from under their shadow, breathing air that was finally mine. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for a seat at their table. I was building my own.